admitted the strange tale of Depsey, the rat. 19th chapter, After the Screams. The cosmic roaring had faded to whispers, but Depsey could still taste metal in the air, the lingering residue of dimensional violence. He sat on a makeshift bench crafted from discarded cartoon props, his yellow shoes planted firmly on the ground that felt more solid than it had any right to in the rift. Around him, the residents had tumbled downtown, picked through the debris of their settlement, reassembling their fragile community with the practiced efficiency of those who had survived many such attacks. But Joker's eyes never left him. "Tell us again," Dr. Moose said, his scientific personality dominant in the aftermath of the crisis. His antlers saw the strange light filtering through the rift's perpetual twilight as he adjusted his tattered lab coat. "Exactly what you witnessed at the blue lights." Depsey's cartoon physiology betrayed him with a slight tremor in his oversized gloves. "I told you already. Cosmic revelation. Understanding the true nature of..." "That's what you said," Joko interrupted, his raccoon features sharp with suspicion that hadn't been there before the attack. "But you're not telling us what you saw. You're telling us what you think we want to hear." The interrogation had been building for hours, ever since Depsey had returned from his expedition claiming divine enlightenment. But something in his manner, some indefinable wrongness in his responses, had triggered their skepticism. Dr. Moose's scientific mind catalogued inconsistencies, while Joko's emotional intelligence detected the hollow ring of rehearsed answers. "The energy readings should have been lethal," Dr. Moose continued, pulling a battered notebook from his coat pocket. His handwriting covered the pages in cramped equations and dimensional calculations. "I've been studying the blue light phenomenon for decades. Every expedition returns either dead or fundamentally broken. You came back enhanced." Depsey shifted uncomfortably on the prop bench. Through 20 years of blood money protection, he had grown skilled at deflecting questions. But these two pressed with the desperate intensity of victims who had finally glimpsed a crack in their cosmic mythology. "Enhanced how?" Joko's voice carried a jealousy that was curving into something sharp. "Why are you special? What makes you different from the rest of us?" The question struck too close to truth. Depsey could feel his carefully constructed persona, the cosmic judge, the divine selector, the instrument of higher justice, beginning to fracture under their scrutiny. His murders had been enabled by victim worship, but worship required mystery. Direct examination threatened everything. "The cosmic order doesn't explain itself to..." Depsey began, falling back on the pompous tone that had worked for so long. "Stop!" Dr. Moose's scientific personality spoke with flat authority. "Stop performing for us. We've lived in this place long enough to recognize performance." Joko leaned forward, his whiskers twitching with predatory focus. "You survived something that kills everyone else. You came back stronger, more real, more defined. That's not divine blessing. That's something else entirely." Depsey's yellow shoes scraped against the ground as he unconsciously tried to back away while remaining seated. The blood money in his system provided protection from cosmic forces, but it offered no defense against the simple logic of survivors who had learned to question everything. "Maybe," Joko's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more threat than shouting, "you didn't survive the blue lights because you're good. Maybe you survived because..." The sky cracked. Not metaphorically, literally cracked, like glass under pressure, revealing something beyond that hurt to perceive directly. Through the fissures, massive shapes moved with predatory intent, their forms suggesting geometries that shouldn't exist in any sane universe. The air itself began to thicken, taking on the consistency of syrup mixed with static electricity. "Road job manifestation," Dr. Moose shouted, his scientific detachment immediately replaced by survival instinct. Everyone to shelter! Full dimensional breach! The attack came from everywhere at once. Tentacles the size of subway trains erupted from the cracked sky, each one dripping with substances that corroded reality where they touched. The ground beneath their feet developed fractures that revealed not earth or rock, but swirling void punctuated by impossible colors. The very air began to scream, not metaphorical distress, but actual audible shrieking as physical laws bent past their breaking point. Depsey's first instinct was to run, but something in his blood-money conditioning held him stationary. 20 years of supernatural protection had created reflexes he barely understood. Instead of fleeing, he found himself becoming a focal point of stability in the chaos. Joko stumbled toward him, his interrogation forgotten in the face of cosmic horror. The ground, it's dissolving under my feet. The doctor followed, clutching his notebook against his chest as reality warped around them. The dimensional mathematics are all wrong. This shouldn't be possible. Other residents of Tumbledown Town converged on their location as the Rojab attack intensified. Without conscious decision, they formed a rough circle with Depsey at the center, their survival instincts somehow recognizing him as sanctuary in the storm. And it worked. The tentacles that reached toward their group struck an invisible barrier approximately 10 feet from Depsey's position and recoiled as if burned. The reality distortions that consumed the landscape around them stopped at the same boundary, leaving them in a bubble of stable physics while chaos raged beyond. Depsey felt the blood money in his system responding to the threat, creating a protective field that extended to anyone within its range. The cosmic entities that had spent decades sending him elimination orders had built safeguards into their corruption. He was too valuable an asset to lose to random dimensional violence. The attack lasted 17 minutes by Dr. Moose's pocket watch, though time itself had become negotiable during the worst of it. When the sky finally healed and the tentacles withdrew to whatever realm spawned them, the landscape of Tumbledown Town had been fundamentally altered. Buildings stood in different positions, some at impossible angles. New chasms cut across familiar paths. Several residents were simply gone, erased from existence with surgical precision. But everyone within Depsey's protective radius survived unharmed. "You saved us," Joko whispered, staring at Depsey with eyes that reflected entirely new understanding. "You didn't just survive the blue lights, you saved us from the Rojab itself." Dr. Moose's notebook had filled with calculations during the attack, his scientific mind compulsively recording impossible data, even while in mortal danger. The protection field, it emanated directly from you. The mathematical implications are... He trailed off, shaking his head in amazement. The other survivors pressed closer, their gratitude mixing with awe that made Depsey's cartoon physics recoil. This was worse than simple worship of his elimination abilities. Now they saw him as something beyond good or evil, a cosmic force capable of standing against the Rojab itself. "I don't know what happened," Depsey lied, his voice carrying conviction born of genuine confusion about the mechanics involved. I wanted everyone to be safe." "Modesty," Joko breathed, "from a cosmic entity." Dr. Moose's scientific personality warred with his mayoral authority as he processed what he had witnessed. The power required to create a stable reality field during full dimensional breach. You're not just enhanced. You're operating on a completely different level of existence. But even as they spoke their amazement, Depsey caught the subtle glances they exchanged when they thought he wasn't looking. The attack had postponed their interrogation, not ended it. Their gratitude was genuine, but so was their continued suspicion. In the settling dust of the Rojab attack, Joko knelt and began sorting through debris with obvious distraction. Dr. Moose returned to his calculations, but kept glancing up from his notebook to study Depsey's face. Their worship had intensified, but so had their questions. "The thing is," Joko murmured to Dr. Moose in a voice just barely audible over the sound of reconstruction, "what we were asking before the attack." "The blue light survival," Dr. Moose agreed quietly. "Still doesn't make complete sense, even with demonstrated power. Saving us doesn't answer why he's different from everyone else who tried to approach cosmic truth." Depsey pretended not to hear their whispered conference, but his enhanced senses, another gift of blood money corruption, caught every word. They were grateful for their survival, but gratitude hadn't eliminated their logical minds. If anything, witnessing his protective abilities had made them more curious about their source. The investigation wasn't over. It had simply been postponed by cosmic violence. As the residents of Tumbledown Town worked to rebuild their settlement around him, Depsey sat on his prop bench and understood that his time as unquestioned cosmic judge was ending. Joko and Dr. Moose had tasted doubt, and doubt, like ink in water, spreads until it colors everything. He had survived the Rojob attack, but he wasn't sure he could survive the slow dissolution of his victim's faith in his divine nature. The park bench felt wrong against Chuck's yellow back. Everything felt wrong since they had crawled out of that hidden chamber beneath the playhouse, since they had seen the wall of screens showing real faces reflecting blue light that originated in their cartoon world. The same bench where they had shared countless innocent picnics now seemed like stage furniture in a play nobody wanted to perform. Lucy sat beside him, her porcelain surface duller than usual, as if the cosmic horror they had witnessed had leached some essential brightness from her being. Her golden crown sat slightly askew, and she hadn't bothered to adjust it. Such small vanities belonged to a world where cartoon appearances mattered, where looking perfect was possible. "Those were real faces," Chuck whispered for the dozenth time since their escape. His perpetual smile had become a rictus, maintained only by cartoon physics that didn't recognize psychological trauma as sufficient cause for expression changes. Actual living beings, watching our performances, being corrupted by our entertainment. The ink residue on his fingers felt heavier than it should, dark purple-black stains that had transferred from the evidence bottle during their desperate investigation. He had tried to wash it off, but it seemed to have bonded with his cartoon skin on a level deeper than surface contamination. The stains pulsed with their own subtle rhythm, like a heartbeat in his palms. "We have to tell someone," Lucy said without conviction. "We have to warn them." But who could they tell? Captain Drumstick was obviously compromised. The entertainment industry was infiltrated at every level. The broadcasting technology that was corrupting innocence was being marketed as innovative progress. Even if they could prove what they had seen, who would believe them? Who would want to believe them? Around them, the park maintained its cheerful cartoon atmosphere with aggressive normalcy. Cartoon families spread checkered blankets on impossible green grass. Couples flew kites that defied physics with their loop-de-loops and figure eights. A cartoon dog chased its own tail in perfectly circular patterns that would have been mathematically impressive if Chuck's enhanced perception hadn't made him see the mechanical precision underlying every spontaneous movement. Nothing was innocent anymore. Every laugh might be programmed. Every game might be surveillance. Every moment of joy might be data collection for some cosmic corruption algorithm. The broadcasting van arrived without fanfare, a sleek white vehicle that might have been mistaken for ordinary municipal service, if not for the sophisticated scanning equipment mounted on its roof. Chuck felt Lucy stiffen beside him as the van's occupants emerged, cartoon characters in crisp uniforms. But their movements carried the same mechanical precision he had noticed in the kite flying. Enhanced, all of them enhanced, their original personalities modified to serve broadcasting efficiency with perfect dedication. Routine compliance scan, announced the unit commander, a cartoon bear whose badge reflected light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. All citizens remained stationary for processing. The scanning began systematically, moving through the park in grid formation. Each cartoon character was subjected to detailed analysis, energy readings, psychological profiles, enhancement potential assessments. Those who registered as suitable received immediate modification via portable broadcasting equipment. Those who registered as resistant received immediate elimination via methods that were efficient rather than humane. Chuck watched an elderly cartoon rabbit couple submit to scanning with the resigned patience of those who had learned not to resist inevitability. The scanner paused on the gentleman rabbit for several seconds, its mechanical whirring rising in pitch as it processed complex data. Enhancement candidate, the bear commander announced. Modification level 7 indicated. The portable broadcasting array unfolded from the scanning unit like a technological flower, its transmission equipment focusing on the rabbit father's head with surgical precision. Chuck could see the exact moment when the modification took effect. The rabbit's posture straightened, his expression simplified into perfect compliance, and his eyes began reflecting the same mechanical light as his examiner's. Integration successful, the enhanced father reported in a voice that maintained his original vocal patterns while completely eliminating his original personality. Reporting for broadcasting service assignment. His wife showed no distress at the transformation. If anything, she seemed relieved that the uncertainty was over. Chuck felt Lucy's porcelain hand slip into his yellow glove as the scanning unit approached their section of the park. The ink residue on his fingers tingled with warning energy, but he didn't understand its significance. All he knew was that discovery meant modification, and modification meant becoming a willing participant in the corruption of real souls. "This is it," Lucy whispered. "We're next." The scanner approached their bench with methodical precision, its mechanical sensors sweeping across the park furniture in predetermined patterns. Chuck could see their reflections in its polished metal surface. Two cartoon characters trying to look casual while internally screaming with terror. The device stopped directly in front of them. Chuck held his breath, feeling Lucy's hand tighten in his grip. The ink stains on his fingers grew warm, then hot, then blazing with energy that seemed to emanate from somewhere beyond normal physical laws. The scanner's whirring rose to a crescendo as it focused its full analytical power on their bench. And then it moved on. Not slowly, not hesitantly, but with the same methodical efficiency it had shown throughout the park, as if Chuck and Lucy simply weren't there. As if their bench contained nothing but empty air and unused furniture. Chuck's cartoon physics nearly destabilized from shock. Lucy's porcelain surface developed hairline fractures that spoke to structural stress beyond normal cartoon tolerances. They sat frozen in place, afraid that any movement might break whatever impossible protection had just saved their lives. The scanning unit continued its systematic sweep of the park, modifying some cartoon citizens and eliminating others with equal mechanical indifference. Within an hour, the diverse community of the park had been reduced to a homogeneous collection of enhanced broadcasting assets and supporting infrastructure. But Chuck and Lucy remained unchanged, invisible to the very technology that was transforming their world. "Why didn't they see us?" Lucy whispered, when the van finally departed, leaving behind a park full of mechanically perfect cartoon characters. Chuck looked down at his ink-stained fingers, the dark purple-black residue still pulsing with its own rhythm. A wild theory began forming in his scientifically trained mind. Something about the ink, about protection, about being hidden from detection by the very substance that had shown them the truth. But before he could voice his hypothesis, movement across the park caught his attention. Yellow shoes, oversized, unmistakable, bouncing with familiar cartoon physics across the newly enhanced landscape. A red bow tie fluttering in artificial breeze. The silhouette of buck teeth visible in profile. "Lucy!" Chuck's voice cracked with desperate hope. "Is that?" She followed his gaze and gasped. There, perhaps 200 yards away, walking among the enhanced cartoon citizens with casual confidence, was their missing friend. Depsey was alive, unharmed, apparently unaware of the broadcasting transformation that had just occurred around him. "Depsey!" Lucy started to stand, ready to run across the park and embrace their returned friend. But Chuck's hand on her arm stopped her. Another broadcasting van was approaching from the opposite direction, its scanning equipment already deploying for a second sweep of the area. If they moved from their bench, if they left whatever protection the ink residue provided, they would be detected, scanned, and modified before they could take 10 steps. They could only watch helplessly as the familiar figure walked away, disappearing behind enhanced trees that now grew in perfectly geometric patterns. The distance was too great to be absolutely certain. The bow tie could have been any cartoon character's fashion choice, the yellow shoes could have belonged to anyone, but Chuck's heart insisted it was really their friend. "Was it him?" Lucy asked, her voice breaking with frustration and hope in equal measure. "Was it really Depsey?" Chuck stared at the spot where the figure had vanished, his ink-stained fingers tingling with energies he didn't understand. "I don't know," he admitted. "I want it to be him so badly that I might be seeing what I want to see." The second broadcasting van completed its sweep and departed, satisfied that the park now contained only properly enhanced citizens and invisible observers. Chuck and Lucy remained on their bench, protected by accident and tormented by possibility. Somewhere in the geometrically perfect landscape, their friend might be alive and free, walking among their enemies with inexplicable safety. Or it might have been another enhanced citizen, modified to serve broadcasting efficiency with mechanical perfection. They had survived the enhancement sweep, but the questions multiplied rather than resolved. Why were they invisible to broadcasting technology? How long would their protection last? And if that really was Depsey they had seen, why was he walking freely among enhanced citizens who should have detected and modified him immediately? The park around them hummed with artificial perfection, every sound and movement optimized for maximum broadcasting efficiency. In the distance, transmission towers rose like metal trees against a sky that reflected corporate logos instead of natural clouds. Chuck and Lucy sat on their bench, hidden by ink and haunted by hope, while their world transformed around them into something that could corrupt real flesh and blood with unprecedented effectiveness. And somewhere in that transformed world, a figure in yellow shoes walked among enemies with impossible safety, leaving behind only questions and the desperate possibility of rescue.